Welcome back to the Ownership Podcast, the show for operators, franchisors, franchisees, and founders who want the real playbook for where fitness is actually going and how to build a model that doesn't get left behind. Today's episode is for anyone who's ever had an idea, written it down, and then actually had the courage to go build it. Patent, product, customers, partnerships, the entire stack. Most fitness founders open studios. A small number build franchises. Almost nobody in this industry builds the equipment itself, or at least they haven't been on the podcast. The hardware lane is brutal. We know this. Long development cycles, real R&D dollars, manufacturing risks, IP fights, patents, all of it. A go-to-market motion that looks nothing like the boutique playbook that we talk about a lot. It's why so few people try it. My guest today has tried it, is doing it, and he's having a lot of success. He's patented it, he's shipped it, and now listen to this, the UFC, the WWE, and ESPN are all in the conversation and having a lot of fun with it. My guest today is Jason Eller, inventor, founder, and CEO of STRIKECOACH. Jason invented and patented a force-detecting training mannequin for combat sports. Think boxing, MMA, kickboxing. STRIKECOACH measures the force of every strike landed to the mannequin's head. You got to check this out if you haven't seen it on LinkedIn and all social media. It's everywhere. From inside specific regions of the brain known to be vulnerable to traumatic brain injury, which I'm very passionate about playing football. It prints strike by strike data, manipulates the user's footwork. And for those boxers out there, you know what I'm talking about here. And it trains the athlete the way a real opponent would. Jason calls it a striking coach, a ringside doctor, and a sparring partner rolled into one product. Here's the part of the story most people miss. Jason did the first 8 years of this build while teaching public school full-time, physics, biology, and chemistry at Judson ISD in San Antonio. Amazing. Jason, man, I'm so excited about this. Welcome to the Ownership Podcast, sir.
Thank you, Albert. Thank you for that introduction, too. It was a
My
really good
pleasure.
introduction. I appreciate it.
Well, let's go back. Let's go back to 2015. You're a fitness instructor, personal trainer, right? Some of your background, I love this brand, YMCA, right? You're an adjunct at National Park College. I mean, you got a lot of going on. And then you think of this idea around a mannequin that measures strike force from inside what we call the brain of it, right? What
Yep.
did you actually see that nobody else was seeing? Like, what made you write this down? And then, I mean, you're like the 1%. 99% of the people would just never take action. You had this idea, you wrote it down, you said, let's do it.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I always say the follow through is the toughest part,
Yeah.
but it came to me kind of like how they call it a light bulb moment. So it wasn't something that I thought about for my entire life or anything like that. I was training a guy. He was a medical doctor who would eventually become my first mentor, but he was hitting the punching bag and he asked me, well, where am I hitting this? So I said, well, right about here's where the body would be. Here's where the head would be. And then he asked, how hard am I hitting it? And I said, well, there's not really a metric for that right now.
Mm,
And he says to
wow.
me, well, don't you think that's a problem? It's kind of like a Ferrari without a speedometer, right? And that line always stuck out to me. And
Wow.
then in that moment, I was like, you know what? He's right. I went home, drew some informal drawings, including like the footwork, motorized movement, and all that. Came back to him. His name was Carl. I came back to him a couple of days later. I said, what do you think about this? He said, I think you got $1 million idea, but he said you should focus a lot of your attention on a specific area of the brain called the corpus callosum,
Mm,
which is where CTE is diagnosed. And
right.
we can go down that rabbit
Yeah.
hole and all that. But yeah, it wasn't something I thought about my whole life. It stemmed from someone asking me a couple of questions, and then it was just like the light bulb went on.
Wow, it's amazing. And I'm so glad you bring up CT, such an important topic. I feel like there was a lot of press on it after one of the movies, right?
Yep.
Concussion to all of
Yep.
the things going on. And in professional sports, I played college football, and you hear the stories. I actually had a family member pass away, and we later find, actually through a buddy of mine who's a neurosurgeon out in Los Angeles,
Mhm.
and works with MD Anderson or UCLA, and yeah, it's still a very important topic. I think it's kind of flown under the radar recently. Just there's a lot of good PR out there that cleans some things up. But I
Yep.
love that you talk about that. And this is a great way to understand how much force when you're striking someone in the head, what that's like, let alone this is also great for training, right? And developing
Right.
skill set. And I've boxed a little bit, and I remember we were chatting, and as you were showing me this product, the footwork aspect. But it's interesting. Your background, I love your background from certified trainer, fitness instructor, adjunct professor, teaching high school biology and chemistry. I mean, you're doing it all.
Yep.
As you're building Strike Coach, did that like professor coaching you really help you develop this? Like, the more I talk to you, I think also too with your background, like the scientist, like you're in the details with
Yep.
every little bit of your product at Strike Coach.
Yeah, no, sorry, let me back up. Yeah, so l let's re-record this part. Can you ask that question
Sure.
again? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So you have a unique background, right?
Mhm,
So certified trainer, fitness instructor, adjunct professor, high
mhm.
school teacher in physics, biology, chemistry. When you were building Strike Coach, did it come from that coach and that teacher, that professor in you? I've had multiple conversations with you, and the
Yep,
amount of detail that you're in personally, I mean, it's like the scientist in you, I would call it.
yep.
How did that all play into developing this?
So twofold. So on the fitness technology piece, that I thought about right away, with the movement, the interactivity, landing a moving target. There are concussion predictor models out there, but nothing like what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And initially I was just thinking sensors all over the place, which we have all that too. But when I went and showed the informal drawings to my first mentor, who was also a medical doctor, he was the one who trained me and educated me on the corpus callosum region of the brain.
Wow.
And that's where I really started focusing my attention. I didn't have a correlative formula that's written in the patent now that would allow us to measure actual forces in real time applied to that specific area of the brain. That just
Wow.
came to me. I was driving about a 45-minute drive, and I had a correlative formula pop in my head when thinking about the product.
Wow.
Again, went back to Carl, told him, and he's like, "You know what? That would work. You could actually measure forces using the correlation from the force in the glove and correlating that with the force in the mannequin's brain." He's like, "That's brilliant."
Mm,
And then, that's it just, moved on from there. But
yeah.
again, it wasn't something I thought about my whole life, just little thoughts and ideas popping in my brain. And again, like I said earlier, the hardest part is the follow through. Everybody has good ideas and things like that. A lot of people don't act on them. And then the people who do act on them, when things get a little bit tough and challenging and you got to figure it out, a lot of people fold at that point.
Yeah.
So I guess my best message, and I'll keep saying it, is the follow through. You got to be consistent and work towards what you're doing every
Well, let's
day.
talk about that. Let's talk about that because I do want to get into the patent side of it as well,
Hmm.
because I think that's really exciting, very interesting as I got to learn more with you about it. But let's talk about that follow through piece. Like, when did it happen? Where you okay, idea, you have mentorship, you're doing some of the research, it's clicking, you have the correlation model between force and strike and all of that. But when did you decide, okay, I need to build a business out of this? And you started to think about capital, money, time, and even the risk, right? Things that you're giving up
Hmm.
to be able to go at this the way you wanted to.
Right, right. Yeah, no, so well, first I thought from a product standpoint, how
Mhm.
can we make the best product and then built a business around that? So I had the medical piece, but that wouldn't really help us. It could help us with grant opportunities, things like that. But market entry for someone like me with, med tech, that's pretty complicated.
It is.
Fitness technology is difficult enough.
Right.
So the idea was, okay, let's enter the market as a fitness technology, unlike anything anyone's ever seen, with the movement, the real time data feedback. And while we're entering the market as fit tech, we can go down the grant route and things like that because what we have is incredible. And in our patent, we were even awarded the right to conduct human studies using our correlative formulas. It's actually a B2 patent because of the medical capabilities. So, there's utility patents and things like that. And then they have utility B1 and B2 patents, which like have medical claims and things like that. And we have a utility B2 patent. But
Yeah,
the
let's
idea
I'm
was
curious
to
about that on the patent side, as we're jumping into that. It's really interesting. I think a lot of people that are out there are very intimidated by it or even question like, what can you patent? What can't you? Can you walk us through that whole journey from
yeah,
research to the legal aspect to the financial aspect to the just time commitment it takes to get that going? Because there's patent and then there's actual, getting product out there. It's two different things, right?
right. Yes, yes. Yeah, so the patent, you don't want to infringe on anyone else's art.
Right.
So, uh, when I wrote the patent, I wasn't a published technical writer or anything like that. So I looked at other patents, did some research, saw how they were drafted, and then I drafted the provisional patent. And I came to the understanding like a strong patent, it has to have broad claims, narrow claims, and method claims. So you have a combination of all that. So then it makes it much harder to duplicate that way. So what I mean by that is like, for example, for a broad claim, when we're talking about the structure of it, I say a motor. I won't specify what kind of a motor we're using. So that's a super broad claim when you're talking about the structure of this.
Right.
And then, like, for a narrow claim, if I want something specific that's in there that I don't want anyone else to be able to use, like, so let's say like a micro step or what I'm using it for and the purposes, I'll add that in the patent, and that's a narrow claim. So you tie all these broad and narrow claims together, and it makes it very, very difficult to duplicate. But the most important parts of the patent are the detailed descriptions. So that's
Mm.
how the product's put together, and you match it to the diagram drawings. But the most critical and important part is the claim language, because that's what makes your product original. So you want to have as many original claims as possible, because when you file the patent, it's going to get sent to a patent examiner. They're
Right.
looking over your claims and to see if you're infringing on anyone else's art or claiming you can do something that someone already else claimed. So that's why you want that combination of broad, narrow, and method claims and, as many claims as you can hammer out. And it's important to look at other patents that are similar to yours as well, because it's good if you find some similarities, because then you know how to differentiate. So
Right.
people, maybe they get scared. They're like, oh, that's too similar. I'm done. No, you look at it and you're like, okay, now let me differentiate what I'm doing from this.
So you're doing
And
a
I
lot
think
of
those,
research in there. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I think those are the best steps forward when writing a patent, really. And again, I wasn't a published technical writer, and I was awarded every claim I wrote in the patent, all
Wow.
25 claims.
Yeah. I mean, as I mentioned, yeah, you did a lot of research, right? I think
Mhm.
you did your homework in order to be able to develop and write out what you knew would the high likelihood, and it did get
Yep,
approved. Walk
yep.
me through because you were talking about how everything's put together. So I'd imagine as you're starting this up, you're bootstrapping, right? It's
Mhm.
you're in the development phase, but I'm thinking sensors and materials and electronics, the firmware, the prototyping, the manufacturing. Like, I mean, when you kicked this off, were you the engineering team? Like, give us kind of a look behind the scenes because not a lot of people do product, right? They don't do something
Right.
like this.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of work. This isn't a service, right? Where you can just go and provide the service, get paid. It's kind of that. I'm not saying there's no setup to this, but this is a bit more difficult. You're piecing something together. This is a product that you're doing.
Yep.
Walk us through behind the scenes. Like, how did that all, like, how'd you do all of that?
So for the first and yes, I did develop the first prototype. So for me, I think the easiest way to start, or at least if you're doing something hardware, is using commercial off the shelf technologies. So I would use other people's sensors or mannequins, cut into them, embed my software. I tried a few different motors. A bunch of them kept slipping, for the movement part of it. So a lot of trial and error until I figured out what the right motor was that I needed to use for this. But again, it was all off the shelf technology to start. Once I got an working prototype, then we started using our own sensors, soldering our own chips, and then that's when I brought in the team. But I wanted to
Right.
make sure it worked first, and I made sure it worked using commercial off the shelf technologies.
And how did you do this? Because you were still teaching, right? So like how are you splitting your time? There's a lot of people out there that will reach out to me about being an entrepreneur as they have their full-time job. I'm like, look, you better be mentally prepared. It is not
Yep,
easy. And you got to remember what's paying the bills, right? JOB number one.
exactly.
And if you really want to do this, I call it the tails, right? Like what are you doing from 4 a.m. up to when you get started on your real job at the time? Right? And then what are you doing late at night? I mean, you're sacrificing a lot. How did
Yep.
you do all of this? Like, how did you split up your time, your week? I mean, even the mental bandwidth for all of this, like it's a lot.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is a lot, and it took some time to do it. For me, thankfully, and a lot of people say this, but thankfully, I have the wife that I do. Like,
Yeah.
she's got my back. She
Love it.
supports me. So, and she's a big believer too. Like, she saw what could be, and now she's really seeing what is. And she gave me the
Yeah, you
time.
just had
Like,
Triple H. I just saw the video online. You
yeah,
Triple H and Stephanie McMahon
yep.
punching your strike coach mannequin. I'm like, this is a dream come true. I wish I was there with y'all.
Yeah, no, it really was. It's kinda surreal, like, all the stuff that I loved growing up, the UFC, WWE, like, they're calling us to collaborate with them,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it is
D-Generation
pretty.
X right there with your strike coach.
Yeah, yeah.
NWO.
It's incredible, really,
So
and a
cool.
lot of fighters that I watched on TV growing up, some of them have worked with us. We used to have fight parties, my parents, and some of the like Jesse James Leha, for example, when he fought De
Amazing.
La Hoya,
Yeah.
we watched that together as a family. Now he's with
Wow.
us on this thing. It is surreal. It's like validation every day.
Amazing. Yeah, that's so cool. Well, great because I know you're putting in a ton of work, you and your team. I've met your team. They're
Oh, yeah.
amazing. Let's walk through. This is different than, a lot of the audience listening and watching is different than studio unit economics, right? I mean, this
Mhm,
is a total different route on the product and equipment side. So think cost of goods sold, think inventory, think
mhm.
tooling investment or manufacturing, right? A lot of the things that typically a studio doesn't need to deal with, they typically get that done by some type of vendor provider, right? Equipment provider. So I think
Right.
people need I'd love for people to hear it from you, like, because you were in that studio space, you were coaching, you were teaching,
Mhm.
um, members and training clients and all of that. So what did you have to teach yourself about I mean, do you have experience in the product industry? What did you have to teach yourself around the hardware economics? And, we spent some time and I know you're ultra detailed. I mean, you have a file and a spreadsheet for everything. I love this about you.
Right.
So you've broken this down.
Mhm.
How did you learn all of it?
I mean, just over time, like I said, I wasn't a published technical writer. I wrote the patent. I wasn't a licensed engineer. I developed V1. So, I mean, again, everyone has a good idea and we all have certain skills. So,
Mm,
the follow through, building it out, how you think you might have to build it out. And when you are building something, though, again, it's not like, well, I'm going to just start wiring and soldering my own sensors. You look at the available technology out there first
mm,
and start from that point. So, like, again, I think when you're building prototypes, I think going commercial off the shelf, is a faster way to go. If I was soldering my own chips and figuring out what wires needed to go in what portholes to start off, I wouldn't even be at the point I'm at right now because I would have
yeah.
tried too early on to figure out stuff I didn't really need to figure out yet.
Mm,
So I think it's just doing things in the right order and doing something positive, multiple things positive for it every day. So it keeps growing.
let's get that
And then as
MVP
far
out
as the
there.
yeah, and then as far as the unit economics, you start sourcing parts, you see what things cost, and then that's how you map out your plan to develop your product.
Yeah.
And we eventually, people who create products, they're going to have to draft what's called a PRD. It's a product review document, and it details what parts are dependent and independent of each other, how they
Mm,
work, how they're wired together. So, like, you really got to know the finite details of your product when you're going into manufacturing.
right.
So, people who are thinking about doing this, you can't just put something together that's off the shelf technology and expect to manufacture that. So, that's the first part. Once you get past V1 prototype, then you start moving towards the other things till you get to a final product.
So I'm curious because I work with a lot of established, mature companies, but also with startups. And I always get this a lot. Why is it so hard for a startup? They think you can just walk into a bank and get money, right? Can you walk us through kind of what was that capital raising structure journey like for you? Not only bootstrapping, but talking to friends and family. You don't have to talk about dollar amounts, but more so just the journey. Like this obviously costs some money, right? And
Right.
then eventually you ended up, you stopped the teaching. So you
Yep.
went all in on this and that's a big sacrifice
Mhm.
on for you, your income, but also for, I'd imagine as you mentioned, shout outs to your wife and your foundation there. It's amazing, amazing support. But that's a financial risk, right? So how did you talk to people? How did you raise funds for, your MVP and your prototype?
Yep.
Walk me through that.
Yeah, no, so, reaching out to friends and family, doing live demos, we were on the news, so a lot of people found out about it that way,
Mhm.
and we already had the patent issued, so we weren't patent pending or anything like that. So we had a few assets in place already before we started asking, for funds. So it wasn't like it was at an idea stage and I was trying to raise. We already had the patent and developed V1, and we had Jesse James Leha as our brand ambassador before I even asked for a dollar from anyone.
Amazing.
So we did have those few things in place, but to get to that point, yes, it did take a lot. But I stayed teaching, building till I thought the time was right to, start raising funds, and here we are now.
Amazing.
One of the things also, uh, we probably would be much further along than we are right now. I actually ended up being paralyzed from the shoulders down, and it took me about a year to come back. I was diagnosed with MS. So as we were,
We
that's
haven't
when,
talked about this. I can't
huh?
believe this. This is the first time I'm hearing about this.
I'll have to, they did a whole, like, write-up about it. I'll have
Oh my
to send it
goodness.
to you. But, yeah, I couldn't move. My wife was spoon feeding me, had to
Oh my
clean me,
goodness.
all that, and, they're holding the phone to my ears. I'm talking to investors, fighters, and that's when we built the team out. The team was actually built from a hospital bedroom. Because then I
Wow.
realized, "Man, I can't do this on my own. I need a team with me," and so the company was actually built from a hospital room, believe it or not. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true.
I can't believe this. This is, wow. How did you, I mean, I don't even know where to start with that. I mean, so you built your team out of the hospital. You're literally, like you said, taking phone calls. I mean, you're still you're still grinding
Yeah.
while
Well,
you don't feel anything below your neck.
yeah. Well, I think honestly, it kind of was a blessing in disguise because working on this while going through that, it gave me hope.
Yeah.
Like there's something to work for and towards. And even the doctors and the rehab people, the physical therapists,
Mm.
they loved watching me. Like, I was in the hospital for about like 2 months, and I went from
Wow.
not being able to move to like moving a little bit with a walker. And when I was first there, I asked the doctor, am I going to be or what I consider to be normal for myself?
Yeah.
And she was like, well, I don't want to, you know, say you could. I mean, you got strong will, but I don't want to give you false hope.
No.
And I even said to her, I was like, "You don't understand. I'm gonna be walking out of here." And I did with a walker. I went back to work teaching while doing this when they told me I shouldn't, in a wheelchair. They were like, "You need to
Wow.
wait." So, like, I guess for me, like, I'm comfortable feeling uncomfortable, and I think going through that whole process actually made me a lot stronger. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I guess just being a founder, you got to be able to withstand some punishment, and I think that helped me a lot, you know?
Oh, that's a lot. Yeah. Jason, something's clearly pulling you to keep going. I mean, to face that type of adversity, right? Let's call it that, and to continue pushing here. What is it? I mean, what do you, because I see all the videos, right? And I see the fun, I see the gamification, I see the product. I mean, this thing is killing it.
You
But there's something deeper here. Is that the CTE part? I mean, what is it that
Yeah, I mean, essentially, so, what's gonna make us and I think will be acquired as a fitness technology, but the members of the team, we're not young guys. We're in our 40s, 50s. So like we want to do something real that's impactful. And the
yeah,
CTE part of this is that. So we'll be able to help people that we'll never meet. And long after we're gone,
so cool.
our correlative formula will be able to help and essentially start diagnosing CTE in living people because you can only diagnose post-mortem right
Yeah,
now.
it's true.
So it's huge. All these doctors, they want to figure out forces applied to the corpus callosum in real time. We hold the IP to that.
Wow.
So the things that we can do are incredible. We figured out what no doctor around the world has figured out yet. And we're just a bunch of high school teachers, engineers, people like
The
that.
best.
So, yeah, I mean, I think
Cool.
that's a huge driving force.
Let's talk about some exciting things. I kind of mentioned it earlier, but South by Southwest, you have this UFC and Paramount Plus. Then you had WrestleMania 42, the WWE, as we mentioned,
Yep.
the logo on ESPN2 and Sports Center. I mean, most fitness founders listening to this would die. I mean, or you spend an enormous amount of money for the kind of brand exposure you get with all of that.
Yep.
Walk us through, like, how did you land this from UFC and Paramount to all of these other ones? Like, I mean, this is huge. I'd imagine you had to let them know about the IP validation, and I mean, these are
Oh,
great
yeah.
partners to have. How did you get these all squared out?
So we're a portfolio company of Capital Factory. So they're like a venture firm based here in Austin. They're pretty
Yeah,
big. I think they're ranked like number 6 in the country.
yeah,
So less than 1% of people who apply get in. We didn't even apply. I met Luis Martinez is his name.
yeah.
We just had a meeting. I was telling him kind of what we had. And he's like, you know what? You could be an all access Portco company with this. And then after that first meeting, we had a few more and eventually ended up becoming one of their portfolio companies. So the DoD's Office of Defense and Innovation is right where our offices are. So they have all these different kinds of people in all these different industries. So now their network is our network as well.
Amazing.
So that's helped a lot. We've done some demos for them. So we've had a lot of high profile people seeing it. I don't know who made the call, but at some point, the UFC or someone on their behalf reached out and said, we want to work with you guys. We love what you're doing
Wow.
for South by Southwest. And I don't know who reached out to them, to be quite
And that's a
honest. But
massive, for those that haven't been, look it up. That's a massive
yeah.
event.
Yeah, no, well, and one of the executives, he came out there, he jumped on it, loved it, came back a second day, jumped on it again.
It's
We
awesome.
talked about licensing. They licensed the Century Martial Arts, the Bob mannequin, so they already licensed products developed from outside companies. So we started talking about the IP and all. So they do have all of that knowledge now. And that same executive, we reconnected and met again when I was in Vegas at WWE.
Amazing.
So there's all these different relationships, that are stemming like quickly, like, and it's just, I don't know, people just randomly finding us or hearing about us. And I don't know how it's that. The WWE thing, it was the same thing. A woman at South by Southwest who's affiliated with them somehow or a group that works with them
Yeah.
jumped on it and told them about it and they reached out to
And
us.
you got Stephanie
So
McMahon. She's just like, I got to get on this thing.
yeah, well, that was kind of funny because the CEO of Capital Factory, we were doing a private event at his house. And I told him, hey, we're doing an activation for the WWE. He's like, oh, I'm good friends with Stephanie McMahon. He's like, let me reach out to
Wow.
her. So then she knew we were coming and all. It's just how things work out. It's a lot of skill combined with a lot of luck,
Right.
you know?
That's amazing. Well, it's also just building some good, genuine relationships, and it sounds like
Right.
you
Well,
and
yeah,
the
yes,
team have
yeah,
done that. And
yeah,
so, aside from the big names, right, and the big events, the volume of people that had an opportunity to try Strike Coach and learn about the gamification and the social layer and the mechanics of it all. I know this is fresh. What have you all learned here recently? This was just a week ago or so,
yep,
that you had one of these events, at least the WWE one. What are some of the data points that you all are learning? Like, walk us through as you're thinking of you're an entrepreneur, right? We're all owners.
yep,
You're in the owner seat. Sometimes you have to iterate. Sometimes you have to continue to double down, triple down on what you know. Wow, that was a banger. Let's keep doing that. What were some of
yep.
those learnings?
So, two main focal points. One of them is home users. There's a huge appetite for people who want this in their
Yeah.
home. So, like our model is the B2B, we're leasing to gyms, and eventually we'll enter homes. But doing the UFC event, the WWE event, over 1,000 people at each event jumped on it. And I would say 50% of them wanted this in their homes. We did an event prior to that at Capital Factory. People were ready to pay right then and there. And we had to tell them, well, we're not ready for homes yet.
Mhm.
So I think that's the big takeaway is there's a huge appetite for the home fitness market for
Yeah.
something like this. And that's because it connects people. So if you have one in your home, I have one in mine, we can compete against each other in a combat simulation.
Oh,
So we stay connected, but we're staying
that is
fit in
awesome.
two yeah, yeah.
I've been wanting
So
to whoop my brother's ass for a little bit, so
I
we just need
know.
to get on it. He's a
Yeah,
lot
no, well,
bigger now.
right, well, this is the way right here, I'm telling
That
you,
is
and
awesome.
and it's a blast. So that was one of the big takeaways, and we're working on the home model, our pricing, all that. We have
Mhm.
all of that mapped out. The second big takeaway is doing activations to help supplement the raise. So now a lot of these big companies, they love what we're doing. They love how interactive it is. So we're talking, we'll see, nothing's definite yet, but there's interest in them lining up at least two of these, maybe more, so people can compete against each other in real time in a combat simulation. So,
Amazing.
like you said, think like if you and your brother came to the event. Now you guys are squaring off against each other on two separate mannequins,
It's
but the
awesome.
data is shooting to the screen in real time, so you could see who statistically was the better fighter
He
in real
I'm
time.
gonna he's probably gonna get a little bit more licks on my chin because I always drop the gloves, right? But I'm taking those power punches, like, I'm gonna get him on some good ones. That
Well,
is
you know what?
awesome.
With the movement, though, that'll keep you moving. It'll line you up a little bit better too, maybe instead of going wild and flat-footed.
I don't know, man. I gotta
Yeah.
break some bad habits. That's amazing. And so you got 2 routes, right? You got the home users, which it sounds like there's a massive opportunity there and demand, and you're working that out. And then there's this, to the actual gym and facilities or studios. I can only imagine, they want it. I just think of being in a, let's just use it, a Lifetime, and I see the punching bags, but I mean, it's just so much different, a static punching bag versus something like this that's using AI, that's moving, right? That's
Yep.
challenging your footwork, and then the gamification or even just the metrics, the KPIs and the force and the lands and all of that. I
r-
mean,
Right.
so that's interesting.
And not
Where are you seeing some of any tension points with that, and what are you excited about on the 2 pathways?
Well, no, so this is a product that was built on customer feedback.
Yeah.
So, all the iterations we made are from the units we have deployed in gyms with customers telling us what they want. So that's how we arrived to the final product. So this is a product that people want. One thing when you see this in gyms though, it's hard to explain, but the energy is different.
Mm,
Like when people are competing against each other, they're seeing their scores on the TV, they're sharing their scores with each other, challenging each other.
love that.
It creates a different kind of energy in the gym. And then second to that, trainers, coaches, it gives them a different perspective. Like Jesse James Leha, world champion boxer, world class boxing coach. He told me he loves training people on this because he could watch how they're moving, how they're throwing their strikes. So he's not just holding pads and mitts. And, so he could really take a step back and see what they're doing. So even from a coaching perspective, you can coach in a different way and a more objective way because you can see what your client's actually doing, the things they're doing wrong and right.
It's amazing. I love that. And so you have these major brands, right? Obviously an amazing product, but now these brands that you're getting a ton of just looks from UFC, WWE, ESPN, right? Walk me through are you currently raising capital? What does that process look like? And say you were speaking to those, one, you have a ton of franchisors, franchisees that are listening to this, including some big box, privately owned, or even public entities that are listening and watching this. What's your message to them? Why should they reach out to you about Strike Coach? And then walk us through the capital raising. I know that's two big questions, but
No, no, that's
maybe get
okay.
into it. Yeah.
Okay. No, my message, to the gyms, facilities, fitness industry as a whole is there is really nothing that's truly interactive. So, like a lot of these new products, their claim to fame, I don't want to name them because I shouldn't name them, but they claim to be interactive. Like there's interaction
Hmm.
between the product and end user. But realistically, if there's not a TV screen there, there is no interaction between the product and end user. It's just a bike or a treadmill or a punching bag. With us, we're interactivity right out of the box. We're the only product where the end user has to think and react to what the product is doing before the end user reacts. They have to land a moving target, move their feet, keep the unit in front of them. It gives them real-time data feedback. So the difference, it's light years. Like I know a lot of products, interactive products are in now, but essentially we really are the only interactive
Yeah.
product
Yeah.
because there is no other product doing what we're doing. There's nothing that moves and engages with the end user like we do.
Yeah. And
And
what I
again,
love
for
about it too is it's physical. I get the VR and the digital, and there's so much fun, and there's great
Mhm,
brands that do it, but there's still something missing, right? There's nothing like for those that, do any type of combat sports or boxing,
mhm,
there's nothing like that feeling, right? There's
right.
nothing like it. You can't
Well,
replicate that digitally, even with like, some of the stuff you'll see at like a Best Buy, like it vibrates. I'm like, okay, it's awesome. It's cool, right? It
yep.
stimulates you, but it's not the same.
Mm-mm. Not even close.
Yeah.
Not even close.
Yeah. Well, that's
But
amazing. Well, I'm really excited about your capital raise. I'm excited about this opportunity that fitness and studio clubs have to get this product in their four wall. And then obviously the direct to consumer. I mean, I think you're doing all the right things. For those that want to learn more about Strike Coach, how can they reach out to you, and how can they, if they wanted to invest, how can they reach out and learn more about that as well?
sure. So my email I can give you is jason.eller@thestrikecoach.com. Any inquiries there. You could also look at our website, any inquiries you have there, which is thestrikecoach.com. And then our Instagram is the strike coach, all underscores. Like if you want to see our videos, what we've been doing and what we've been up to.
So cool. Well, I really appreciate your time. I know you're super busy. Thank you for number one, the vulnerability. Please say hello to your wife from me,
Will
and
do.
such an amazing support system there, as you had mentioned. Your story's nuts. I mean, yeah, I didn't realize there was another aspect to it. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
great job to your whole team. I hope they're watching this and listening. Great job to you all. This is really exciting. You're solving for a major pain point, and then, as you mentioned, leaving a legacy, serving those that are in football or any type of combat sports, or some type of hitting, right, and taking
Right,
that type
right.
of
Yeah,
beating. So
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, and that's like I said, why the team feels so good. We're helping people twofold. One, people are burning calories and
right,
smiling because they're having the best time. And then two, I mean, there's clear medical benefits. Like we're at the forefront of research that's still in its infancy. So I mean, it's just it's a great product in that
amazing.
regard. It's a product that helps people, so we feel really good about it on several fronts.
Excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to spending more time, and thank you for sharing. And I know we chatted a little bit about the financial aspect and capital raising for those listening. Fitness, wellness, any fit tech founders, if you want better cash visibility, as I mentioned, unit economics, capital strategy, or you just clean financials, make sure to reach out to me. You can find me on strategointel.com, or of course, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. This has been another episode of the Owner Seat Podcast. I'm your host, Albert Ramos. And if you haven't tuned in, if this is your first time, episodes drop every Monday and Friday at 8 a.m. Central. Jason, such a pleasure. This was
Thank you,
awesome.
Albert. Thank you. Thank you. It was
All
a
right.
pleasure was all mine.
We'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks.